So good afternoon, welcome. My name's Catherine Smith-Ball, and I'm a management analyst for DCR's Social Equity Program. Today's webinar is the third in a series of Seed Grant Lunch and Learn webinars. These webinars are meant to help applicants submit successful applications for the Seed Grant Program and to receive financial assistance. Today, we have our grant administrator, Paula Groves, and her team from Elevate Impact LA to walk us through submitting a successful grant application. So we're going to go through all of these documents, each document one at a time, and we'll stop for Q&A along the way. Please type your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And before we get started, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the grant program itself. The Seed Grant Program uses funding from the 2019 and 2020 Cannabis Equity Grant for Local Jurisdictions. That's the CEG grant. And it's to provide financial assistance to verified social equity individual applicants. The City of Los Angeles has dedicated $6 million towards the Seed Grant Program. $5 million is available for Seed 1.0, and $1 million is available for Seed 2.0. Seed 1.0 will utilize $5 million to provide grants of $25,000 each to Phase 3 Retail Round 1 Social Equity Individual applicants. Now, please remember that the list of all the 200 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants can be found on our website. We have sent email messages to all Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants, notifying them of their eligibility. So make sure you check your email account listed in Acela. Now, Seed 2.0, this fund utilizes $1 million of the $6 million to provide grants of up to $10,000 to each verified social equity individual applicant. And this will be made in two possible disbursements. First, applicants are eligible to receive $5,000 when the Department of Cannabis Regulation approves their pre-application for further processing. And then second, they can receive an additional $5,000 when they receive a notice of local compliance underway. Eligible applicants also received emails notifying them that they were eligible for Seed 2.0 and which amounts that they were eligible for. Again, please remember to check the email address that's associated with your Acela account. Next slide. And finally, I want to leave you with some important reminders. First, in order to receive the grant, you must apply by August 18th, 2021. And second, applicants who receive funds under Seed 1.0 are not eligible for Seed 2.0, and applicants receiving funds under Seed 2.0 are not eligible for Seed 1.0. And lastly, please remember to put your questions in the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen. So now at this time, I would like to turn over the presentation to Paula Groves. She's the CEO of Elevate Impact LA and our Seed Grant Program Administrator.
Thank you, Catherine. Can everyone hear me okay? Great, thank you so much. By way of introduction, I just want to let you know that Elevate Impact was launched in 2018 to implement the City of Oakland's Social Equity Loan Program, which was funded by city's tax revenue. Since that time, we've expanded our client base and now serve the City of Los Angeles, City of Sacramento, and County of Mendocino. We are deploying close to $20 million in loan and grant funds to social equity entrepreneurs throughout California. Next slide, please. So it's not just me. We have a team of well-trained underwriters and technical assistance providers who are on our staff to help you complete and help get your loan and grant application funded, not loan, but your grant application funded. With me today on this call is Tiffany McBride, who will talk to you about the legal documents and the closing process. We also have Stacy Brennan Gray, who is our customer relations and database manager. Some of you may have already talked to her. If you have any questions about our application process, she's the frontline person that you would be speaking with. We also have other underwriters, Laura Herrera and Bruce Robinson. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough room on the slide, but we also have Chelsea Candelaria, as well as Jovan Johnson and Rachel Bond. So we have a full team that's ready and available to help you with your grant application and to apply for grant funding and also to get access to those fundings. And we'll talk to you about the steps associated with that throughout this presentation. Next slide, please. So now I would love to walk you through our 6-step grant disbursement process. Next slide, please. So step 1 is to apply online. Step 2 is our application review. Step 3 is our grant approval. Step 4 is our virtual signing. Step 5 is the grant disbursement. And step 6 is the post-grant data tracking. So let's start at the top. Step 1, apply online. So everybody will be required to complete an online application. Paper applications will not be accepted. In addition, in order to verify that an applicant is indeed a verified social equity individual, the applicant will need to input their ACA reference number issued by the City of Los Angeles, and you would input that into the application. We know that many of you are wondering how to locate your ACA reference number. There's a video tutorial on the LA Cannabis website and the video tutorials page which will show you how to access your ACA reference number. Next slide. Oh, go ahead. If you wouldn't mind playing the video. Thank you.
The Department of Cannabis Regulation, also known as DCR, is transforming its website into a more user-friendly online information and resource center. We have comprehensively redesigned our website to streamline, simplify, and make more accessible information related to licensing and the social equity program. All videos and resources on the website are for informational or guidance purposes only and may be updated from time to time as information becomes available. The information contained in these videos, forms, and other resources is subject to change without notice and does not replace or supersede the requirements contained in the Los Angeles Municipal Code or the rules and regulations. DCR encourages all applicants to conduct their own due diligence and seek legal or business advice if necessary.
In this video, I will demonstrate how to look up an Excellus Citizen Access Reference Identification Number. To start, please navigate to the LADCR Excella portal, enter your username, password, click on the I'm Not a Robot CAPTCHA, and log into the system. From your home screen, please navigate your cursor to the Account Management section. On the Account Management screen, scroll down to Contact Information, where you will find your Excellus Citizen Access Reference ID number located here. Please write down and save this number for future reference. Thank you for watching this video.
Wonderful. Thank you for showing that video. And you know, we actually have 3 different video tutorials on the SEED program page. These videos show you how to navigate to the Elevate Impact website, give you an overview of the grant assessment documents, and also go step-by-step through an application. So this is an additional place that you can go to get information so that you can successfully complete your grant application. You will also find this information on the Elevate Impact LA website. If you navigate to the How to Apply menu, you can see more information about how to apply. Next slide, please. So this is what the application process looks like, which can be found on our website, elevateimpactla.com. Next slide, please. And this is what an application looks like. When applying, you have the ability to complete the application all at once, or you can save your work by clicking the Save Progress button and come back to it later. If you want to save your work and return later, you will have to create a new user account by first clicking on the Login button. Next slide, please. Once a complete application has been received, the Elevate Impact staff will review the application for completeness. If anything has been missed, the applicant will receive an email requesting the missed information. We are also available by phone if the applicant has questions. Step 2, application review. If an application is complete, it will then be assessed by the Elevate Impact Committee. The next few slides will walk through the assessment process. But note, if an applicant does not submit a complete application, they will be coached by the Elevate Impact team on how to approve their application, and then it can be resubmitted. In all of the other cities we worked in, an application has never been denied. Next slide, please. Once again, first, the application is assessed by the Elevate Impact staff. Once an application has been assessed, the applicant will receive an email stating whether or not the application has been approved or how it can be improved. If the applicant is not approved, they are then coached by our staff so that you can submit a successful application. Next slide, please. So what does the application entail? The application entails 4 different assessment documents. The documents that will be assessed include 1, the written budget narrative of how the funds will be used, 2, a budget or line item list of expenditures for the requested grant amount, 3, a business executive summary, and it doesn't have to be very long. We're only looking for something in the range of 3 to 5 pages. And then 4, the monthly expense projections for a 12-month period. And we'll talk in a little bit more detail about each one of these documents. And these are basically the types of documents that are required by any traditional funding source, such as a bank or an investor, anyone who would be providing funding to your business. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what each of these documents look like. And we have provided these sample documents on our website for your download and for your use. Also, if you registered for this seminar, you should have received these blank documents in your email in response to your registration. And I actually would encourage you to take out the documents now and take notes on each one of the documents as we go through them and write down information that's relevant for your business. And you'll be almost halfway through the application process if you take advantage of that opportunity. Next slide, please. Okay, let's start at the top. Written budget narrative of how the funds will be used. The written narrative basically describes how you're going to use the money. It's a written explanation of your budget. We're going to require that you upload a budget spreadsheet, which actually quantifies how the grant funds will be used. But we also need a verbal explanation or a verbal description of each one of your budget categories. So let's look at an example. Our example assumes that the applicant will be spending money in 5 areas: rent, licensing fees, legal assessment, regulatory compliance, and then finally capital improvements. Now your own budget categories might differ, but these are just examples. So using our example, if you're spending money on rent and you're allocating $3,000 to rent, you would simply have to write our monthly rent is $3,000 and we will use $3,000 of the grant funds for rent. If you're going to use part of the funds for licensing fees, you would simply write that you're going to use some of the grant funds for your state licensing fee, and you expect that licensing fee cost to be about $6,000. Now, let's say that you want help negotiating your partnership agreements, and you also want help developing your employee handbook. That might require that you go and get advice from an attorney. So you might want to allocate $5,000 to legal fees and simply write down why you need the legal advice. Next, we all know that business insurance is a core cost associated with being in business. So let's say you've done some research and discovered that in order to purchase business insurance policy, that policy will cost you $7,000. You would list that cost here and explain why you arrived at that number. Finally, let's say you need to add storage to your current location and it will cost you $4,000. Explain that you anticipate that adding additional storage would be $4,000 in capital improvement costs. So this provides an example of how we want you to lay out a written explanation of how you plan to spend your grant funds. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's great. Let's take a minute and pause for questions. Does anyone have questions about what has been said in the presentation so far, or specifically about the budget narrative?
Hey, Paula, so far we don't have any questions.
Okay. This is a
However,
smart group.
yes, okay. So I guess we'll continue on.
Okay, perfect.
I'll just remind everyone, please type your questions into the Q&A chat feature, and we will make sure we get those answered.
Great, thank you, Catherine. All right, let's talk about the
We've lost the volume on Paula for just 1 second. Please bear with us while we fix the problem. So thank you everyone for coming to our webinar for the SEED grant program. We're having just a little bit of technical difficulties, and we are working to resolve those, and hopefully we'll be back with you shortly.
Hello, can you hear me? Catherine? Great, so sorry. I think my Wi-Fi cut out for just a moment. Thank you for your patience. All right, hopefully you haven't forgotten everything that I just told you. All right, let's start at the top with the budget. Basically, we would like you to submit your budget in a spreadsheet format like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. So looking at our budget example, as you can see, based upon what you explained in the written narrative, the budget is simply a tabulation of all the different categories. So here, we've entered that rent is $3,000, licensing fees are $6,000, legal assistance is $5,000, regulatory compliance, which in this example is the estimated insurance cost, is $7,000. And finally, capital improvements to add a storage unit to your space is $4,000. When you add all of these costs together, your total budget amount is $25,000. What's most important about your budget is that the total budget amount be equal to the grant amount that you're applying for. So for example, if you are applying for a $5,000 grant, we would expect these budget categories to add up to a total of $5,000. In our example, this individual is applying for a $25,000 grant. So all of the budget items total $25,000. All right, next slide, please. Does anyone have any questions?
Let's see, okay. Yes, we do have a couple of questions here in the chat.
Great.
Let's get this for you. So, we're asked, does an applicant need to be in the licensing process to receive the grant?
So I should really let Catherine answer this, but in order to receive the grant, if you are applying for a SEED 1.0 grant for $25,000, you have to have received the designation that you are a Phase 3 Retail Round 1 designee. And that list can be found on the City of LA's website. And that's what you have to have in order to apply for the $25,000. Now, if you'd like to apply for the initial $5,000 grant, you need to be deemed eligible for further licensing. And one of the ways you will know if you've been deemed eligible for further licensing is you would have submitted an application fee and you would have been assigned a licensing analyst. So that's the best determination. And if you need to find out, and you would also have an Accela account, right? That's how we know you have an ACA number, is because you've registered on the Accela website. And then if you want to apply for an additional $5,000 or $10,000 total in the SEED 2.0 grant program, you would have received a notice of local compliance underway. And that would have been via an email that would have been sent from the licensing department. Catherine, is there anything you want to expand on there?
You pretty much covered it. So the answer is yes. If you're a verified social equity applicant, then you must be deemed eligible for further processing to receive the $5,000 under the SEED 2.0 program. And then once you have received your notice of local compliance underway, then you can receive the additional $5,000 under the SEED 2.0 program. And to go along with that question, there was a question about who supplies the ACA reference number, and that number is supplied by the city to all of the applicants, DCR. Okay, we do have a budget question for you.
Okay.
The amounts, are the amounts in the budget estimates or accurate amounts?
They're usually estimates. And so that's what the budgeting tool is. It's a way for you to do initial research to determine how much you think things are actually going to cost. And then you put that in your budget. But there's always a reconciliation process, which we call budget to actual, which you will also be required to do. As a part of our post-grant data tracking, which we'll talk about later, the state has asked us to report out on what your budget was and then what you actually spent the money on. And it's actually a very good entrepreneurial training tool to be able to compare those two numbers so that you can see if you were on track or how you need to tweak your budget amounts going forward.
Great. This question wasn't asked today, but I think this might be a good point to mention this again. The question was, are applicants or grantees able to retrofit their budget? If they've already had some expenses, can they add that to their budget, or is it for future expenses only?
At this point, it's for future expenses only.
Great. And we are ready to continue.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next thing we'd like to talk about is the monthly expense projection. The monthly expense projection is a document that requires you to upload an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet format, just like you had to do with the budget. And the reason we require this document is because one of the most critical aspects of running a business is making sure you don't run out of cash. And then one of the ways to ensure that you don't run out of cash is understanding the timing of those cash flows. So what we'd like to have you do is to create this monthly expense projection using our template. And this gives you the opportunity to lay out your budget in a time-sensitive manner. So for example, if you're applying for $25,000 in grant funds and you're spending $3,000 in rent, do you want to spend that rent money in month 1, month 2, or month 3? So you would simply enter the month, you would enter rent in the column of the month that you want to pay the rent. Now, let's assume you want to pay $6,000 of grant funds towards your state licensing fees, but perhaps your state licensing fee isn't due until month 6. Then you would simply take that $6,000 and you would enter the amount in column 6, in the month 6 column. Continuing with our illustration, let's say you are buying a general liability insurance policy for $7,000, but you actually just paid that bill last month. So in our example, it's an annual policy. So you probably won't need to spend that $7,000 until month 12. And finally, let's look at the capital improvements category. In our example, you wanted to create a new storage unit and it was going to cost you $4,000. Now, if you actually want to build in that storage unit into a certain section of your location, you may first have to work with an architect to design the storage and the shelving plans. So you might spend months 1 and 2 designing the space, but you don't actually have to spend money for the storage unit until month 3, because months 1 and 2 are the design phase. Using this example, you would put the storage unit cost of $4,000 in the month 3 column. The last step of projecting your monthly expenses is to add all of your monthly expenses for each category or row going across from month 1 to month 12, and then enter the sum in the last column, column Q, labeled total year 1. All of your expenses in column Q going down and entering the sum of the expenses in the total expenses in the row cell of column Q, this would all total the $25,000 amount, which is the grant amount that you are applying for. And you can see that number in row 41 and column Q on your screen. Okay, any questions? Next slide, please.
You're such an excellent teacher, Paula. We don't have any questions as of yet.
Good. Good
Yes,
to know. I think the entrepreneurs in the audience are going to be quite successful. All right, next topic of conversation, and this is the final assessment document that you'll be uploading. This is called the Business Executive Summary. This is basically a shortened version of your business plan. We just want to understand more about the type of business that you're running and how you anticipate acquiring customers. We also like to know what type of product you're developing and how you're going to market your services. We expect the Business Executive Summary to be a short document of only 3 to 5 pages. Now, I have to pause a minute and say here, if you've written a full business plan, feel free to upload that. We don't want you to have to create something new. But if you haven't written a business plan, this is just a quick and dirty way to get at what the critical elements of a business plan would include. All of the questions that are outlined in this executive summary may not be relevant for your business, but we do want you to spend time thinking about each category and answering the questions to the best of your ability. So let's walk through this document in more detail. Section 1, the overview section. This is where you enter key information about the company. This includes your company name, your website, and we also like you to describe your company in 50 words or less. And if you have a slogan or a tagline, this would be a great place to put that information. The next section is what we refer to as the product questions. This is specifically designed to help you describe the type of product that you're bringing to market. We want you to write down the top features of that product and the benefits that your products are providing to your consumers. And you can also spend a minute to tell us how much money it will require for you to set up and develop your product. The next section is the competition section. Now, we all know that being in the cannabis industry can be a very competitive marketplace. We just want to understand if you are aware of who your competition is and who your top 3 competitors are. And the most important question in this section is, how are you unique? How are you different than your competition? How are you going to add value to your customers that they can't add? All right, the next section is called the marketing and sales section. So once you've developed your product, a critical question that all businesses have to ask is, how are you actually going to get your product into the hands of your customers? What is your distribution strategy? Are you a mobile dispensary? Are you a storefront dispensary? How are you driving traffic to your business? Those are the types of questions we want you to answer in this section. The next section addresses your team or your staff. A successful business often requires a team. We like to understand who's on your team, including your partners and consultants. If having a staff will cost money or working with a consultant will cost money, you have the opportunity to explain who these individuals are and what value they're going to be providing to your business. Moving down to the next one, the next section is what we refer to as the infrastructure section. These are the physical attributes that your business will have to spend money on to help you deliver your product or service and set up your business. For example, you might have to spend money on construction to bring your facility into compliance, or you might have to purchase equipment, whether it's computer equipment, or it might even be packaging equipment. Other examples include security systems, phones, and leases. Next section. The next section is the compliance section. We all know that the cannabis industry is highly regulated, and there are costs associated with making sure that you stay in compliance. So the first question is, what type of cannabis business are you operating? Do you want to provide health insurance to your employees as part of your labor peace agreement? Do you need to purchase general liability insurance? These are the types of questions that you would be answering in the compliance section. Finally, action plan. We all know being in business requires staying in action. So we'd like for you to upload your action plan. This plan describes what you need to do next in order to be successful and to make sure that you're launching a long-term sustainable business. In this section, we want you to list out the milestones that you're setting for yourself. These might include secure funding, create design plans, build out your space, purchase furniture, or develop a logo. In this section, you have the opportunity to list all of your action items, and we've labeled this section your action plan. So that gives you a sense of what we'd like to see in the business executive summary. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. The question is, if we just answer the questions for the executive summary, will that be sufficient?
Yes, it would be sufficient, but you know, our underwriters want you to pass the smell test, right? We have had people upload blank pieces of paper. We've had people, you know, write 1- and 2-word responses, which really doesn't answer the question, right? And that's actually why we have the assessment document and the assessment checklist, because we want to make sure there's integrity in the process. Our underwriters have looked at hundreds of applications across several different cities in California. So they know what a business plan with integrity has. And so if they don't feel that you've answered the questions with integrity, they will come back to you and ask you to give a little bit fuller explanation. But, you know, we're not looking for an MBA thesis, 100-word thesis. That's not what this is about. This is merely a guide, really, for you to help you launch, grow, and execute a successful business.
Great, thank you for that. Yes, we have another attendee who would like to know.
I'm sorry, can I just say one more thing about the business executive summary?
Of course.
I think it's we are here to help you. We are here to empower you. We do not, you know, encourage people to go out and hire expensive consultants to get through this application process. We at Elevate Impact are a free resource, and we are here to coach you and help you get the grant funding to help you launch and grow a successful cannabis business. So these documents, the budget, the expense projections, the budget narrative, and the executive summary, we're not looking for hundreds of pages. You don't feel like you have to hire an expensive consultant. We are a resource to help you get through these documents, which is why we're hosting the Lunch and Learns, quite frankly, so that you can get money to build a successful business. Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome. Yes, one of the attendees would like to know, well, she says, they say, some of the questions for the executive summary don't apply to my business. How do I handle those questions?
You can simply say NA, not applicable. And the underwriter will look at your entire response, right? It's a holistic response. And they'll let you know if they feel like you need to give us a little more information. But if you don't think it's relevant, just simply say NA.
Great. I don't see any more questions about the budget,
Okay.
about the business executive summary. I wonder, though, if you could answer a previous question we
Sure.
received. Great, and that's if a grantee, if their expenses have changed and they've already filled out the budget spreadsheet, and the example used was they filled out the budget spreadsheet and it said they needed the money for storage, but now they realize they really need to redo the parking. How can they change that, or is it set in stone once they submit it?
No budget for business is ever set in stone. Even if you look at Wall Street businesses, they're constantly changing their projections, right? So all we want to do is if you've already done your budget and you've uploaded and received the grant based upon your initial budget, when you upload your actual receipts that show what you actually spent the money on. You just simply provide a comment as to why those expenses changed. Now, I will say that you must spend money on the eligible use of proceeds. And we'll go through that slide in just a minute, but you can only spend money on expense items that have been deemed eligible by the state of California.
Great.
Good question.
And another question that's come up before is, when completing the 12-month expense projections, when should the applicant assume is month one?
I would say you should assume month one is going to be about, say, a week or two after you get the grant funding. So if you apply for grant funds in July, I would say I would use August 1 as the first month for creating your expense projections.
Great. And just to remind participants, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen.
We ready for the next slide?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Great. So this is what we call our grant assessment checklist. And this is the tool that the underwriters use to make sure that you've uploaded each of the required documents and that you've completed them. And this is not a scoring system. It's not anything that we're using. It's not like a credit score. It's just a way to make sure that you've had integrity in the process and you've uploaded the required documents and you've answered the required questions. Next slide. Step 3, grant approval. So a completed grant application will be reviewed by the Elevate Impact Committee. And if you pass the assessment process, an email will be sent to you saying that you've passed and you have now become an approved applicant. Again, if you don't pass, the Elevate Impact underwriter will give you feedback on how you can improve your application and then reapply. Next slide, please. So we're now moving toward what happens once you've been approved for the grant. And Tiffany McBride will be taking you through what happens to actually receive your grant funds. But basically, it entails 3 separate things. One, a virtual signing of the grant agreement. I'm sorry, first, a legal review of the grant agreement. 2, a virtual signing of the grant agreement. And then 3, grant disbursement. So if you don't have any more questions about the assessment documents, I'd like to take a moment to hand the mic over to Tiffany McBride to take you through the closing documents, the closing process. Tiffany?
Thanks, Paula.
And if you could go to the next slide, please. And the next slide. Tiffany's going to cover this. I'm sorry. I forgot this slide came before Tiffany's slide. Give me 1 second, Tiffany.
No problem.
The question that Catherine asked a few moments ago, what happens if you create a budget and then you end up spending the money on something else? That's perfectly fine. You just have to disclose that. And remember, I said that you can only use grant funds for things that have been approved by the state of California. Well, this is a list of all of the things that you can use your grant funds for: rent, lease, equipment, licensing fees, regulatory compliance, testing of cannabis, furniture, fixtures and equipment, capital improvements, marketing, and working with staff. So this provides a list of all of the things that you can spend money on. Next slide, please. And then there's, of course, whenever there's a do, there's always a don't, right? So in terms of what you cannot spend money on, that's listed on this slide. You cannot buy unlicensed cannabis. You cannot be and work with or provide money to an unlicensed cannabis business. We cannot provide funds to non-cannabis businesses that serve the cannabis industry. You cannot purchase inventory with this grant money. You cannot spend money on personal expenses, such as the acquisition of cars or homes or any personal items. You cannot relend or invest the money in other businesses, and you cannot engage in prohibited activities. So that's all pretty much common sense. Don't do anything illegal, and you can't buy inventory, and you can't spend money on yourself. Next slide, please. And Tiffany will cover this as well, but one of the things that we have to do is provide to the state of California how entrepreneurs actually spent the money. So we are creating a portal where you will be able to upload your receipts. You will be able to compare your actual expenditures versus your budget. And all of this will occur at our portable elevateimpactfunds.com. Next slide, please. Finally, Tiffany, your turn.
Yay, okay, this is the fun part where we're talking about how your money will be dispersed to you. There will be 6 different steps, and the first step is the grant approval email. Second is the review of the legal grant documents. The third is the document signing. Fourth is verifying your identity during a video call. Fifth is establishing your account on the elevateimpactfunds.com website. And sixth is the actual grant funds disbursement. Next slide, please. Okay, the grant approval email. Approved applicants will receive your legal documents via email. This is an opportunity for you to review your documents with the Elevate staff, and then you will sign and return the documents to Elevate Impact. Next slide. Step 2 is the legal document review. And there are 4 documents that we will be going over during the legal review process. The first one is the seed grant agreement. The second one is the document review consultation form. The third, which you may have already turned in with your application, is the W-9. And the fourth is attachment A, which are standard provisions with all city contracts and agreements. And we'll go over a couple of the highlights of these agreements now. Next slide, please. Okay, this is what the grant agreement looks like. It'll be dated, have your name, have your LA record numbers, and the date on there. You scroll down a little bit. Number 1 will have the amount of the grant that you are being given. And we can scroll down. One of the main provisions that I want to point out is right here. Number 9 is events of default. Pretty much what this means is if you use the funds for any of the expenses as outlined in Paula's previous slide, the do's and the don'ts. Just stick to the do's and don't do any of the don'ts and you'll be fine. So those Laker season tickets will have to wait. So you have to spend it on your cannabis business and all the approved expenses. And some of the things that can happen if you default on any of the terms in this agreement is the agreement will be terminated. You will be denied, or your application will be revoked for your cannabis license. Number 3, they will demand immediate reimbursement of the funds. Number 4, they can bring action in the court of law for equitable relief, specific performance, and the like. You can be barred from future funding by the city, or they can basically just, bring a lawsuit to get the money back. And that's it. But just stick with it. Stick with the plan, your budget, and you'll be fine. Also, your grant agreement will include your name, address, phone number, and email. Now, take a look here because your email and your address and the way your name is listed here must also be used in your W-9. And you can scroll down to the end of this document. I think those are the highlights. And of course, you'll sign. And when you sign this document, you can either sign traditional in a traditional signing manner where you sign it and email it back to me, or you can request that your documents be sent to you via DocuSign. Next document, please.
Can you guys hear Tiffany?
Okay, here we go. Okay, this is the document review consultation acknowledgement. This is what you will send to us immediately following the legal review of your documents. And this legal review is voluntary. You can accept or decline it. we encourage you to accept it so that you understand what you will be signing. And if you do accept to attend, you write your name next to accepted. If you choose to decline and you don't want to participate in the consultation, you will write your name next to declined. Either way, you're going to have to turn in this form, because without this form, we cannot move forward. And then you will sign your name, and normally your name will be printed here. If not, print your name under or next to type name and date it. Return this to your underwriter as soon as possible so you can move forward with the disbursement of funds process. Again, without this form signed, the funds, we will not be able to move forward in giving you the passwords that we'll be talking about a little bit later in this presentation. Next agreement. And this is a W-9. Because grants are taxable, you'll have to turn in a W-9. Again, this is for an individual, not a business. No funds will be dispersed to businesses. So make sure you fill out your name and make sure you click individual. And number 5, make sure you put in the address, city, state, and zip code as listed in your grant agreement. If you have several addresses that you use for your business, always go back and refer to the grant agreement to see which one was listed and which one you provided for the purposes of fund disbursement. Also include your social security number, and we could scroll down a little bit. And don't forget to sign and date it. We've had a couple of people forget to sign and date, but that is very important. And that's that. Next. And these are standard provisions for city contracts, and we will go over this in detail during our legal document consultation. Next. Great, so that is the legal document review. And step 3, signing the documents. So we use DocuSign. DocuSign is an electronic platform which allows you to e-sign your documents remotely. By this time, you have received your documents via email, via the grant approval email. You can sign and email them back to your Elevate Impact underwriter, or you can request a DocuSign that they be provided via DocuSign. You just let us know which one do you prefer. From there, the city officials will then e-sign the documents via DocuSign as well, once we receive your signed documents back via traditional signing methods or DocuSign. Next slide, please. 4th is the video identity verification. Okay, so this is a portion of the disbursement process. We just want to make sure that we are dispersing the funds to the proper person. Elevate Impact will hold a video call with the approved applicant to verify their identity. This step requires you to get your this step is required in order for you to get your password to set up an Elevate Impacts Funds account, which we will discuss in a couple slides. And that account is what you'll be using in order to set up your bank account information. But until we do this video identity verification, you will not obtain that password. So the verification steps including holding up your ID, which must match what is listed in your file, and holding up your bank statement, and it must match what's in your file. So we're just double checking to make sure you are the person identified on the application. Next slide, please. Next, you will establish your Elevate Impact Fund account. So after you've completed your video call to verify your identity, you will receive an Elevate Impacts Funds account credential, including a username and password, so that you can establish an account to receive grant funds. You will need to have an electronic version of your driver's license and bank statement or voided check, any document that will have your driver's license name and also your bank account, your personal bank account routing number and account number, and have that ready to be uploaded to the Elevate Impacts Funds website when you're establishing this account. Next. So this is what the homepage, landing page of the Elevate Impact funds.com website looks like. So here you'll open the email that has been sent to you by Elevate Impact and enter the password and username provided to you. Next. From there, you verify your identity by entering contact information that is listed again in the grant document, your name, address, and email. Next slide. Then you'll enter your banking information provided on the bank statement on file. And again, remember that this is a personal bank statement. Funds will not be dispersed to business accounts, and it has to be the bank statement or in the bank statement that we have on file. It has to match that information. You'll enter your routing number and banking account number, which can be found on a check or on your online banking statements. Next slide, please. Next, micro deposits. One way that we confirm, again, that the money is going to the right person is that we will send you micro deposits. The approved applicant will receive micro deposits to confirm the account has been established. Once you have received a micro deposit, you let the underwriter know that you have received them and the amount of the micro deposit. Now, once you set up your account, please remember that the micro deposits are not instantaneously deposited, but may take as many as 2 days to hit your account. Once you obtain the micro deposit, you let your underwriter know that you've received the micro deposit, and in addition, send them a screenshot of the micro deposit. Next slide. So step 6, funds disbursement, yay! So the grant agreement by this time has been signed by you and the city. Finally, you have established your Elevate Impacts account and it's been verified. Then finally, the grants are dispersed, and that is that. Next slide. Any questions?
Hi, Tiffany. I don't see any questions as of yet. I do see an attendee with their hand up. I just want to remind, please, if you have questions, could you please type them below in the Q&A box? That's if you're on your desktop. If you're on your cell phone and you want to type in a question, click the bottom of your Zoom screen and you'll see 3 dots on the lower right-hand side. Click on those 3 dots and then scroll through Q&A until you see Q&A. So please type your questions in the Q&A box, and we look forward to answering them. How about as a general question, how long do you anticipate a grantee being funded the grant? So from the time they apply until the time they receive money?
This is Paula. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So it usually takes about 4 weeks from when you received a completed application and you've submitted all the documents and the documents have been signed off by the underwriter. Because then we send you the grant agreement for your approval. We have you establish your bank account. You go through the video identity verification process. You establish your Elevated Impact Funds account, and then you receive the micro deposits. And then we get the city to sign. So there are all these steps that's going on in the background after you've completed your application. So we've determined that that process from a completed application to grant disbursement is about 4 weeks.
Great, thank you. And I am not seeing any additional questions.
Oh, there's one more.
Okay, great. Let's see.
Oh, there's 2 more.
Okay.
So I see, do you want me to go ahead and try to answer these questions, Catherine?
Yeah, you can answer. Is this a grant program or a loan program?
It is a grant program, full stop. And one of the things I want to say about that is the reason we ask for the W-9 is these grants are taxable, okay? So we have to get the W-9 so that the city of Los Angeles can issue I think it comes out on a 1099 form, the fact that you received a grant and you need to declare that grant income on your tax return.
Great. Yes, and we have another question. Can you describe how someone would qualify for SEED 2.0 when they're applying for a delivery license?
So Catherine, I would have to let you answer that question. And
Yeah.
do you mind turning on your video? I don't know if you're aware that it's off.
I was
See
not.
your
Thank
pretty
you.
smile.
Thank you. You called me out. All right. Yeah, so to qualify for SEED 2.0, your social equity verified applicant, you must be deemed eligible for further processing. That's the first step to receive the first $5,000 under the SEED 2.0. And then once you've received your notice of local compliance underway, then the applicant would be eligible to receive the second $5,000. Let me know if that answered your question to the person posing the question. I hope I answered the question. Great. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, Paula, we have a question. Can we include the tax on the $10,000
Yes, absolutely.
in your
Tax
budget? Okay,
Yes, taxes are an eligible use of proceeds, so you absolutely can include that on your budget.
great. The second part of the question, I believe you answered. The attendee wanted to know if it would be personal income tax.
Yes, the grant is written to you as an individual, so you would be declaring it on your personal income tax statement.
Great. So let's see, any more questions? If you have questions, please type them below. Okay. All right, so a person asks that they've already received an email stating, as a verified social equity individual applicant who's completed the pre-application process and received a notice of local compliance in the way you can receive $10,000 in direct financial assistance through the City of LA, Los Angeles SEED Grant 2.0 program. Great. So the question is, can I get the $10,000 in one payment, or will I still have to get two $5,000 payments?
No, you absolutely can get one $10,000 payment. You just need to make sure that our underwriters have verified that you pass both criteria.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, we have another question. Let's see here. To qualify for further processing, do you need a location?
I don't think
That's-
so. Catherine?
I was going to say that's a question for us.
Yes.
Right. So for SEED 2.0, you can apply. The pre-application process doesn't require you to have any kind of executed lease. You can submit a landlord attestation. That's the first, that would be for the first $5,000. But to qualify for the local compliance underway, which is your temporary approval, you would then need to have secured your location.
So you do need a signed lease in order to get issued a notice of local compliance underway, or no?
Local compliance underway, right.
You need a signed lease?
by that point, you would need to have secured a location. The
Okay.
first step, when you're applying, you don't have to have an executed lease. You can just provide an attestation from the landlord saying, yes, you're going to be there. I believe I've answered that question.
Mhm.
If not, please let me know. Put the follow-up question in the Q&A
Right.
box. Thank you. And if you, if you could put if there's a follow-up to that question in the Q&A chat, I would appreciate that. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Let's see. I know previously we received questions about if a person has 2 applications, can they apply twice for the grant?
No, you can only receive grant funding on an individual basis. So whether or not you have 2 businesses, you have 2 permits, you have 2 whatever, the grant goes to you as an individual, and it's only available for each grant is only available per individual. So if you're applying for the $25,000 Seed 1.0 grant, you can get $25,000 as a person. And again, as Catherine mentioned earlier, you cannot, if you apply and are eligible for 2.0, you cannot apply for 1.0. If you apply and are eligible for 1.0, you cannot apply for 2.0.
Great. There was a question we received, and not in this webinar, but in a previous webinar that I think bears worth addressing. And applicants were interested to know if there would be any more grants after the Seed 1.0 and Seed 2.0. And so if I could just answer to say that right now, this is the only grant available from the funds that we've received from the state, but in the future, there are additional funds received. We may be able to make additional grants. So we don't know when or if. So please take advantage of the funds that are available now with this seed grant program. Okay. I think I'll just give it maybe about 1 more minute to see if anyone else has any additional questions that they'd like answered. Please put your questions below in the Q&A box. And okay, something has popped up. This is a great question. The attendee asks, can I use grant dollars for licensing fees? I'll let you answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the uses of funds that was outlined on the approved uses of funds, whether it's state licensing fees, or maybe you need to renew your City of Los Angeles licensing fee. But yes, you absolutely can use grant dollars for state and local licensing fees.
Okay, we have a question about what's the deadline or the last day to submit an application?
It's my mother's birthday, actually, August 18th. That's how I remember. So please, please, please get your application in by August 18th. Even though the applications may not have been fully processed by that time, we absolutely have to go through our assessment process and the verification process. But if you're at least in the queue, you have the opportunity to secure grant funds if you make it all the way through the assessment process. But please, everybody, as many people. And the other thing I want to say is, one of the things that we've discovered in our underwriting process is people have this fear of doing it wrong, right? They won't apply because they feel like they're not going to meet the criteria, or they're going to fill out the application wrong, or they're not going to be able to answer all the questions. Don't let fear stop you. apply. Our underwriters are here to help you. Don't feel like you have to hire expensive consultants. We are all very well trained. We've been doing this for several years, and we really want to help you succeed. So what did I say at the last webinar? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Apply, and we will help you to improve your application so that you can be successful.
Great. One more question. Can the grant money be refunded or returned if they don't use it? And so they won't have to pay the tax on that amount that's not used?
I don't think so. And here's why. I mean, we probably should get some higher authority, somebody above my pay grade as a backup research. But what we don't want to have happen is that the money is not being used specifically for cannabis purposes, right? We don't want you to lend the money, earn interest, and give it back to us. We don't want you to give the grant money, invest it in some, wonderful stock market scheme and make cash on it and give it back to us. We have to make sure that we're preventing the use of grant funds for those sorts of activities. So if you give us the money and then give it back to us, it just raises a lot of alarms and a lot of bells. So I'm happy to, have people talk to people, have people talk to my people who talk to the people at the state to get a more definitive answer. But I got to tell you, that doesn't really pass the smell test. So that's what you got to be careful of.
Thank you, Paula. So how soon after receiving the funds, when do grantees have to submit the receipts?
I would say you should submit the receipts as soon as possible, because then you don't lose them and you don't forget, right? So we are in the process of developing an expense portal, which I think will be ready mid-July. A lot of grantees tend to spend their money up front because it's their launch period. If you spend over time, that's also okay. Remember, we already went through the expense projection timesheet, which is great. It's a great tool for you to use to manage cash in your business. But I would say that, the portal will allow you to input your budget. You can work with your underwriter to do this, and then you can upload receipts as you get them. We're trying to make this as easy as possible.
Great. This question's popped up again, so I think we need to stress the answer to it. And the question is, can a person use grant capital retroactively? For example, previously paid legal fees.
Right. At this point, we have not allowed that in the program. Maybe we should take it under advisement, because we do get that question a lot. But the purpose of the program was to actually help people build their businesses going forward, and not, to fill in, to backfill. But right now, the answer is no, you cannot. But perhaps we can take it up under advisement.
Thank you. So the question is Seed 2.0 only for a delivery business? And the answer to that would be no. The Seed 2.0 would be for those who are not phase 3 retail round 1 applicants and are able to reach at least the first milestone, which is to have submitted their application for their pre-application and have been deemed eligible for further processing. So all verified social equity applicants who have an application that's been deemed eligible for further processing are eligible to apply for Seed 2.0. And let's see. Yes, we have the last day to apply is August 18th, 2021, and that is correct. That is the last day to apply. So please start applying now. You know what? I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to ask, instead of a question in the chat, I'm going to ask a question, and I want to see if you could answer in the chat. If you're attending this webinar and you have not applied for the grant, are you able to please type very briefly why you haven't applied yet? We'd be really curious, interested in learning what may be holding you back from applying for the grant. If you could type your answer to that question in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, and then let's see what else we have. While you're answering that question, I will look for additional questions. Yes, where are the links to apply for the grant?
So you can apply on our website, elevateimpactla.com. That's elevateimpactla.com. And you'll see right prominent in the far right corner, click here to apply. Now, there's a ton of information on the website about what the application looks like, what our expectations are around the questions that you answer. And I highly advise that you navigate the website and read as much as possible so you're up to speed. But if all of that is a deterrent for you, then just go to the website, click on the Apply Now button, and we will receive your application.
Great. So I please hope that you do apply. Oh, thank you to those who are answering about why they may have been delayed in applying. Thank you for answering that question. We appreciate it. And especially to the person who just found out about it today. Wow, you found out about it today, you came to the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you apply.
You do it.
That's great news. All right, another question. Can people from Sacramento apply?
Well, you have to be, this is really a question for you, Catherine, but don't you have to be a verified social equity applicant in Los Angeles?
This is correct. A verified social equity applicant in the Department of Cannabis Regulation, City of LA. So you can be from Sacramento, I guess, but maybe if you have, you meet the eligibility and you're verified as a social equity applicant through DCR, you can apply. Exactly. I don't know if you meant like if your hometown was Sacramento, but you're verified in LA.
Yeah.
I think this is part 2 of that question. Someone asked, do they have to live in LA or just LA County? It's how you've been verified as a social equity applicant. I'm not sure if this question is asking, how do you get verified as a social equity applicant? Do you have to live in LA to be verified, or LA County? But this is City of Los Angeles program, and Department of Cannabis Regulation is under the City of LA. If that doesn't answer your question, maybe you can ask a clarifying question in the Q&A box. I have a question, but I'm not really sure what it's asking. It says, do you have to have DCA information to apply? If you could please maybe clarify that question. Do you have to have DCA information to apply? Oh, I think I should probably also expand on my answer about the verification. You know, the verification process, that's already happened. That verification process is closed. There will be a future verification process, but it's, you know, to be determined. Okay, what else do we have? Well, this is not a question, but this is a comment that I think you should hear, Paula.
Yes.
So an attendee thought that this grant process was going to be a bit complicated to complete the documentation alone, and they were not in a position to hire a consultant to fill out the documents. But after this webinar, they will be able to finish and complete the documents and will apply.
Wonderful. That's why we're here doing this. You are the perfect candidate.
That's exactly why we're doing this. So thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing your application. Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess, Catherine,
Yeah.
it looks like we've answered all the questions.
Yes. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this Lunch and Learn program. Let's see here. And thank you so much, Paula. Tiffany, thank you to your whole Elevate Impact LA team for this informative workshop. And thank you to the social equity team who's working behind the scenes here, and DCR for putting this together. So all of these webinars are recorded and they can be accessed through DCR's website at cannabis.lacity.org. So please go to the social equity page, look under benefits and resources, and then click on Seed Grant Program for more information. And as a reminder, we cannot say this too much. Elevate Impact LA has made themselves available to assist every applicant with completing their applications. So please use your best judgment and your best efforts to complete the application, but do not hesitate to reach out to the team at Elevate Impact LA. This is a free service to applicants, and so we really like for you to utilize that. Additionally, we have 3 video tutorials available about the SEED program. It's on the SEED program page on DCR's website, and this can also help you fill out your grant application. These videos, they cover how to find information about the SEED grant program, how to fill out those grant assessment documents, and finally, how to submit your application. We encourage you to please use these resources whenever possible. So with that, thank you all for participating in today's Lunch and Learn, and we hope you have a great day.